That's Yes and Wondrous Stories. And the man who played guitar on that is with us, Steve Howe. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Johnny. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Let's talk about the beginnings of your love affair with the guitar. How did all that begin?
Well, I was about 10 and I was really enjoying the guitar. You know, my parents had some music by Les Paul and Mary Ford and the great Tennessee Ernie Ford, who had some wacky guitarists on his record. So I guess I was inspired, but mainly inspired by, the pop and rock, movement that was starting to show strength. And, by the time I was 12, which was about 7:59, they actually got me a guitar and I just put my head down and stupidly thought I could play immediately, which everybody said, you must be joking. But I had this stupid belief, but it took a few years to get in a band, and then I never looked back, as they say.
I heard a story, I doubt whether it's true, but we'll find out, of you standing in the window, miming playing guitar while you were playing records to sort of impress passers-by. Is that true?
Well, partially. There's elements of truth in it. I think I was very, taken by the guitar, and I most probably did do that. Although air guitar wasn't really known at that time, but I may have been doing a bit of that. But I certainly would have been happy just to sort of plonk along and mime. And maybe people seeing me from the window might have been an ingredient, I hate to admit.
Now, you had an interesting time in the 60s, and one of the bands you were in, they changed their name and became Tomorrow.
That's right.
And had that great hit, My White Bicycle. That's a great record, though.
I love that record. I'm still friends with Keith. Keith West is still in touch. And that was a lovely era because, not only did we get caught by the psychedelia of it all, and we managed to be with a manager who was Brian Morrison, who was looking after, in his camp with Steve O'Rourke and Tony Howard, Pink Floyd, of course. So we did a lot of those shows. We were there. We were right in the nub of it, and we loved it. So it was a terrific band. It was just, really, we took a bit too long on the album that came out in 68, and I think if we got that out in 67, it would have been a much better thing. But My White Bicycle did come out, and that was an ingeniously tweaked, I should meant to say, and it's a tweaked record. It's got backward guitar, backward hi-hat, it's slowed down, there's all sorts of, there's a policeman on it blowing his whistle, a real policeman, Abbey Road policeman. So there's these marvellous crazy things about it.
Now, like lots of really good guitar players, if you're not in a band, you're kind of a jobbing guitarist. So you played with P.P. Arnold in her backing band.
That's right. I was doing sessions, before I joined Yes a lot more, and then P.P. Arnold, we must have run into each other. I can't quite think how we knew each other, but I got invited by her to play on a fantastic tour, Eric Clapton with Delaney and Bonnie and friends. So we were part of the opening acts. In fact, we had a really, really good time. I think it was a month long, the end of 69. And that was really like a precursor to me, actually knowing how to walk on a very big stage and play, because obviously they attracted a big audience and they were such a lovely band, lovely bunch of guys. Thanks, Eric, for that. It was great.
Yeah, I went to about 3 of their gigs.
Did you?
And of course, Eric famously said they're the greatest band in the world right now, Delaney and Bonnie. And he joined them. And then George Harrison was there for the Albert Hall one.
We did a few shows with George. We went to his place and picked him up. And of course, Dave Mason was on it too. But having George Harrison on the tour was great. Yeah, he was such a lovely person, beautiful person, lovely team.
Now, how come you became a member of Yes? What's the story there?
Well, I did want to be in an original sort of band. And the band I was in sort of never really got off the ground. And so a couple of months after me saying to everybody I knew, I'm looking for a gig, Chris Squire called me and said that John Anderson and he had seen me playing in Tomorrow and in Bodas, and did I want to come and play? Well, I got down to Barnes and went in a basement, and I was very impressed with the guys. This I sensed was the kind of band I was looking for: high musicianship and originality. So there's nobody more original than Bill Bruford on the drums at that time. So I was very impressed, and luckily I got the gig, even though I was considered a bit more of an out there hippie than the rest of them. I got the gig, and we went to the country and wrote the Yes album, really. What I wanted to do with the band was make sure we only played our own music, because they were great at covers, and that was their arrangement skills. So I wanted to apply the arrangement skills to our own music, which was the Yes album onwards, really.
And you co-wrote an awful lot of Yes songs. Who with?
Right. John Anderson, mainly.
Yeah.
We very often we had a team group song like Yours in a Disgrace was. But after the first album, John and I collaborated and we wrote Roundabout. And then we went on and did Close to the Edge, and then notoriously we went on and did Topographic Oceans and Awaken, which is the song that almost saw out the 70s from the Going for the One album. So John and I had great teamwork. We did most of the writing after the Yes album on the road. So it meant that, during the tour, we were starting to build up repertoire. So the rehearsal came for the next album, and Atlantic said, oh, go ahead, do something, you know. And John and I had ideas, which I think, you know, we weren't the only guys with ideas, but it helped that there was a collaborative sense of John and I coming forward with words and song.
And the wonderful thing about Yes is John Anderson had such a unique voice, didn't he?
Oh, beautiful voice. Such a beautiful. I mean, I spotted it that night in Barnes, you know, when I went there to play with them. And John persisted in having that such a unique, beautiful voice, lovely voice.
Here he is.
Jethro Tull, which we were very happy to do.
No Disgrace, featuring the guitar playing and the songwriting of our My 70s guest this afternoon, Steve Howe. On an early tour with Yes in America, how was that? I mean, when you do those first tours, you're not staying in nice hotels, are you? I
No.
mean, it's a cheap way of touring.
Well, we opened for Jethro Tull, which we were very happy to do because they'd already sort of broken the States. In fact, we opened in Canada, Edmonton, way up north. On our very first show, but the tour was virtually all with Jethro Tull the first time. But Yes did manage to make a remarkable leap. I think on the second tour, we managed to get headlining. I mean, that was very unusual. Usually you had to work up the steps very, very slowly. But we kind of got on the first ladder, the step of the ladder, and then zoom, we went straight because, you know, promoters and crowds, and particularly universities, really took to the kind of group that Yes was. So it allowed us to go headlining quite rapidly and not do years of, you know, endless slogging. So, you know, the hotel, the accommodation, the travel, all that is something you finesse as your career goes on, and you learn, you know, from the horror stories that exist about places that aren't all that of great repute. But, you know, we learned to be sensible at the same time. You know, you can waste a lot of money on private jets and extravagant hotels, and those things are really not necessary, you know. And I took to driving, so when I formed Asia in the 80s, I started driving all tours, and ever since then I've driven virtually 90% of every tour I've done because I like that way. You know, I like cars, I like the control, I like the, you know, the privacy also, that you can just go, you stop in a veggie restaurant, go to a guitar shop, see a friend, you know, en route to somewhere, as opposed to, you know, the normal, the entourage schedule is A to B, and you don't get any choice. So I thought that.
Yeah. What car do you drive?
We've been driving Mercedes for years. I mean, in the 70s, my wife had the wisdom she had the wisdom to buy one. And I had a Bristol, you know, which was a great car. I had it for 17 years. But the Mercedes started to be always the car that worked in the worst conditions. You know, it started in the snow. You know, it grappled on. So we're not committed or anything, but we're very pleased that they're still a very high quality car.
Now, Bristol, was that a British-made car?
Yeah, it had a Chrysler engine, a 6.5, but it was made down in Filton in Bristol. I love the guys there. As I said, I had my it was a 411 Series 5 for 17 years, so I loved it dearly. I always thought that was going to be it. I was never going to buy another car, but after 17 years, it didn't have ABS, blah blah blah. It was a 76 model, and so I leaned then, having had these great experiences with Mercedes, that we went Mercedes only.
We don't mind a bit of car chat. There's a lot of people sort of tinkering in sheds. Listening to this show on a Sunday afternoon. Yeah. I'll tell you a story. Who's a big fan of a Bristol car was Mark White, who used to be the head of Radio 1 back in the early days.
Yes, Richard Branson had one too.
Yeah. Well, at Christmas time, he would bring his wife in. It would be a sort of Christmas lunch for all the Radio 1 DJs. And Mark White's wife was saying, oh, yes, Mark, he loves his Bristols. Yes. And she couldn't quite understand.
Quite get the picture.
Yeah, why all of us started laughing.
Well, actually, John Williams, the classical guitarist, he had a Bristol as well.
Yeah. Let's do another song here. And a bit of a rock track that Yes did, Going for the One.
Right, well, this features, what I'm doing is all on steel guitar, which is something that I always loved right from Tennessee Ernie Ford days. Loved the steel guitar, pedal steel as well, which is a more intricate, multi-stringed sort of version of the steel guitar. So I just rocked out on this one, and it was fairly brave to do it all on a steel because, you know, I know how to play a guitar, but I was still really learning how to do a steel, but I was very confident that this sound and the slidiness, you see a lot of guitarists bend and slur, but I didn't do that on the guitar. But of course, on a steel, it's a sort of natural.
What it's all about.
It's got that going for it. So yeah, I love the chance to play steel guitar.
Must have looked a bit odd on stage, you know, your steel guitar. You're sitting down at one, you expect a sort of country song.
I always stood up, yeah. Except when I play Awaken, I have to sit down to play a pedal steel, usually. But no, on this song and other songs like And You and I and many other songs I play steel on, I devised a way where it slides in to my position and I play it, and it slides out when I don't need it.
Steve Howe is our guest from Yes, and here is the band. We're going for the one. That's Yes, and going for the one. See, everybody thinks Yes are really cool, sort of, you know, progressive rock and all that sort of stuff. But you could do a heavy song every now and then.
Well, I was saying that we fundamentally were a rock band with a twist. You know, we were a rock band. And when you take songs like Good People and so many more of them, they have fundamental rock thing that we've never, or never should have ever lost. And I think it's all very well being an arty, classical, quasi sort of proggy band. But I think we've managed to keep the roots that are very embedded in us, is that fundamentally we started out as rock people.
Now, one of your favourite guitars was a Gibson, a hollow-bodied guitar.
That's right.
Which, did people look down on that? Because everybody's playing solid electric guitars, weren't they?
Well, by the time I got this 1964, the ES-175D Gibson model was really played by people like Joe Pass, Kenny Burrell, Wes Montgomery. It was a jazz guitar, really. But somehow I managed to get a rocky sound on it, with two pickups. So the back pickup is, gives you some rock sound. But people hadn't really conceived of this because, they were playing Les Pauls and they were playing Strats and Tellers and things, which are, solid body guitars. They were designed for the kind of music that they're useful for. And I managed to, kind of develop the sound of these 175 guitars into the rock situation and use them, not only that model, but other big jazzy looking guitars. I think they've got a nice natural sound to them anyway, which helps a little on the electric amplification. It's got something going before it, like a slab with a pickup. It hasn't really got a lot going. But I think the resonance and the buoyancy in a arch top guitar which is what we're talking about.
You must get very attached to a guitar. I mean, I heard it said that some of the dodgy hotels in New York, you'd actually sleep with your guitar.
Well, look, there was only one night when I actually did sleep with my... That was for safety. Not mine, but its safety. Yeah, this guitar got hauled around. I think it most probably caused me to see a lot of chiropractors carrying this guitar around before I had my own guy to do that. And then, in a way, carrying your own guitar around is a commitment. It's a big commitment. I made that for years and years. And I used to also tune and restring my own guitars, even when I was using multiple guitars on stage. So I put a lot of effort in because I wanted something back. And I didn't just want to leave it. I didn't believe anybody could tune a guitar as well as I can. But that's not true. But it was my feeling at the time. So, yeah, playing a guitar you love is definitely the right step. And I've been fortunate to keep my original 1964 175, which doesn't go out of England now due to the ridiculous rules and changing of rules that the airlines have. I took a guitar last year with me to Spain to play at my daughter Stephanie's wedding. And when I came back, they wouldn't let me take it on the plane. And yet going there, they let me take it on the plane. So, I mean, that kind of stupidity is all wrong. And also they've damaged things. Anyway, I won't go there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm happy. I've got another one from the same year, that 64, that is a really excellent guitar as well. So my favourite, gem, it does work in England, but not the rest of the world.
You don't mention any names, so you don't give them a name.
No, I don't. No, I haven't got a brownie or a greenie or anything like that. And no, they're just the 175 is what I call it.
Steve, many thanks for joining us this afternoon.
It's been a pleasure, Johnny. Really good to see you again.
Don't do that.